The relationship between sociality, hobbies, and depressive symptoms during a pandemic by Claire Bishop, Michael Lonberg, Emily Keefe, Brandon Schaff, and faculty advisor Dr. Katie Judd. Here is the abstract of the study. Please pause the video briefly to read the abstract. Over the past year, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted people's physical and mental health worldwide. To help control the spread of the virus, many states implemented quarantine guidelines for its citizens. These restrictions drastically limited the ability to interact socially with others. Restaurants, movie theaters, and other places of social entertainment were closed. Families and individuals both worked and played at home and had extra free time on their hands because of the pandemic's social restrictions. These restrictions led individuals to either experience depression for the first time or exacerbated the symptoms of those with pre-existing depression. People employed various coping mechanisms to deal with the stress associated with the COVID pandemic. One way people spent their extra time was in a pursuit of hobbies. Studies have shown that hobbies have a positive impact on people's mental state. This study sought to measure the effect of different kinds of hobbies and how they either increased or decreased depressive symptoms. The researchers sought to analyze how 6 different categories of hobbies affected symptoms of depression. The hobbies studied were further broken down into 2 major groups, social hobbies and independent hobbies. These 2 groups were further subdivided into whether the hobbies were leisure, physical, or consumption-based in nature. The objective of the research was to draw a generalized conclusion as to what types of hobbies correspond to fewer or more symptoms of depression in individuals. The researchers hypothesized that socializing hobbies would yield significantly fewer depressive symptoms than independent hobbies. Moreover, the researchers expected consumption-based hobbies to be associated with the highest depressive symptoms, as opposed to both physical and leisure activities.
Moving on to the methodology of the study. Participants were students from a small Midwestern liberal arts college, and a total of 132 surveys from participants were run through the SPSS analysis program. The demographics of the subjects involved had an age range between 18 to 25 years old. Although a majority of the subjects were psychology majors at the university, a variety of different fields and majors were represented. A majority of the subjects were white females, but there were other demographics present as well. Recruitment of participants for the study involved using word-of-mouth advertising to various organizations on campus, as well as the posting of the external link to the survey through SONA systems sponsored by the university. Compensation was limited to 1 unit of extra credit for those participants who were enrolled in a psychology class through the university. The collection of data for the study involved the utilization of the program Google Forms to first create an online survey and then an external link that was then posted to the SONA Systems program sponsored by the university and then made available to the participants. The survey included a ranking question about the hobbies engaged in during the last 6 months of the pandemic. Also included in the survey was a modified 20-item Beck Depression Inventory Assessment, which is commonly referred to as the BDI. The modification to the BDI for the study involved the recoding of the numeric responses 0, 1, 2, or 3 with the answer choices of the questions to A, B, C, or D, so that subjects would not know that we were summing up the scores of their responses to avoid demand characteristics. The themes of the questions of the BDI involved appetite, body image, suicidality, motivation, and hopelessness, and these were mentioned in the informed consent document so that participants knew what they would be seeing during the study. The procedure of the study involved the administration of the survey, as well as the participants typing their name in the informed consent document saying that they agreed to the risks of the study, as well as the demographic questions asked of them. Then they filled out the questions such as the BDI and the ranking question. And then after they had answered all the questions, a debriefing form was made available to them at the end of the survey. And as for the handling of the data was recorded in Google Forms, assessed in SPSS as it was held in the Google Sheets program, and it will be stored at the study's completion at the end of the semester. No names of the participants were linked to data. The definition of hobbies within this study is important because the hypotheses involve seeing whether different types of hobbies have a relationship with depressive symptoms presented in people, reported by people. Leisure activities are defined as being unrelated to work or physical activity, and they allow participants to unwind. So this could involve painting, doing a puzzle, or reading a book. Physical activities are defined as using energy, physical energy, which involve doing yoga, sports, running, or walking. And consumption-based activities include a number of things such as gambling, overeating, shopping, and particularly taking recreational drugs and drinking alcohol. Each of the participants were asked to rank their engagement with each of these hobbies. As there were 6 categories, each leisure had a social and independent category, physical had a social and independent category, and consumption-based activities had a social and independent category.
In order to analyze the effects of the 2 independent variables on depressive symptoms, a 2-way ANOVA was conducted. Upon statistical analysis, no statistically significant evidence was observed between either of the 2 independent variables, nor in the interaction between the 2 independent variables. In regards to the hypotheses, the first hypothesis that socializing hobbies would result in less depressive symptoms in comparison to independent hobbies was unsupported. So too was the hypothesis that consumption-based hobbies would be associated with the highest depressive symptoms as opposed to both physical and leisure hobbies was unsupported. Table 1 shows the mean scores of the experimental groups. As you will see, the sample size for the groups varies. Particularly, the consumption group had only 2 participants. However, it did have, as predicted, the highest depression score. However, it was not statistically significant. Table 2 shows a pairwise comparison of BDI depression scores between hobby types. As you'll see in the significance column, none of the mean differences were statistically significant. Finally, the table 3 shows the 2-way ANOVA summary. And again, if you look in the significance column, you will see that neither the hobby variable nor the socialization variable led to statistically significant results, nor did the interaction effect of the hobby and socialization variables lead to statistically significant results.
Discussion. Our results indicated that there was no difference in depressive symptoms regardless of a socialization factor or even which hobby type was engaged in. However, it should be noted that this did not contradict previous research findings. We believe that socialization, and especially social support, lessen depressive symptoms and contribute to well-being. We also believe that individual coping mechanisms, or hobbies, are an important part of maintaining psychological wellness. The important takeaway from our study is that we cannot prove that there is a significant difference of depressive symptoms across hobby types, even as they compare to social or individual hobbies. With only 14 participants in the independent consumption group and only 2 in the social consumption group, we can conclude that our data was unbalanced, leading to low statistical power, which could have contributed to our non-significant outcome. Contributing to this effect, many surveys had to be thrown out as participants in some cases failed to read the directions of the study and therefore could not be placed into an appropriate group. Clear directions or an inability to successfully pick more than one hobby as the most engaged in hobby could have avoided this problem. In any case, future studies could improve upon our study in a couple of ways. The first of which would be to re-examine how hobbies should be operationally defined, as this may have been the biggest challenge of our research. Secondly, other hobby types and relationships could be present, and a minimum age of participation at 21 years of age could be useful to avoid fear in reporting survey data. After all, participants could have had a fear of reporting that they used consumption-based activities for coping more if issues of legality were intertwined. Finally, future studies should note that our data came from a highly educated, female, and white population from a rural Midwestern university. Our results may not be considered generalizable due to this fact. These are our references. Thank you for listening.